that we could be out cutting grass or raking leaves. He also forgot to mention or getting a root canal, which is the equivalent of cutting the grass or raking the leaves. But anyway, I want to thank you all. You know, this group and what it stands for lost a really important ally last fall when Father Creedon died, which I quite frankly have told people if the rest of the clergy in America of all denominations were like him, this country would have been squared away. You know, it's a real shame. And as for this is what being in the General Assembly can do to you. So, but anyway, we passed the budget we passed. Obviously, did not have Medicaid expansion. The one we passed in the Senate, the one in the House did. Very quickly, what the net effect of that is: K through 12 for the biennium in the House budget is $180 million more than what it is in the Senate, and higher ed's about 85 to 90 million more in the House. And the reason is that they have Medicaid expansion. Now, Medicaid expansion in and of itself, and George can get more in the weeds when you hear from him, but is about 120 million, 110 to 120 million of the expansion itself. The other 300 million came from the provider assessment tax that McAuliffe had put in the outgoing biennium budget. And there's a way around that. The hospitals are, and by the way, the hospitals are willing, to pay our 10% if we increase the reimbursement rate to them, which would enable them to pick up our 10%. So it wouldn't, when they say, well, it's obligating us, that's simply not so. And every state that's passed Medicaid expansion has a kill switch in it. That is, if the federal government discontinues the program, then we have to discontinue, because obviously we can't pick up $2.5 billion a year. And by the way, we have now, I guess, forfeited, George, about $10 billion that would have come into this state. And I mean, that's aside from the humanitarian aspect of doing this. As for the work requirement, keep in mind about 70 to 75% of these people work already. Okay, so you're talking, what about the other 30%? And basically, probably a half, or at least a minimum of a third, probably can't work. Okay? Now, if we're going to do anything with the work requirement, quite frankly, we ought to take maybe some of the TANF money and some other federal dollars in that field and give them a skill, and along with the training to enable them to keep a job. I mean, simply to just do a one-time thing doesn't make any sense. The other thing you got to keep your eye on is the work requirement. Some of the states, a couple of the states have had this. The work requirement to supervise that eats up a fair hunk of your Medicaid expansion money, which is silly. So, we got a ways to go. We are going to get it done. It'll take a bit, but we are going to get it done. I voted, for the budget simply to get it into conference, and we'll do the same thing again. But if that thing were to come out of conference without Medicaid expansion, I would not vote for it. Okay, but I don't see that happening. We have a minimum of 21 votes on the floor and possibly more. It'll either it won't come out of committee with that, because we don't have the votes to get it out of committee with Medicaid expansion, but it'll either be done on the floor or in conference. It'd probably be easier to do it in conference, then you wouldn't have two different versions. And so, but we're going to get it done. And we're going probably, in answer to your question, well before July 1st. Keep in mind, we've gone into June before. We shouldn't go that long this time, because it really disrupts local government and their ability to plan. But we should get it done long before that. We went into June when Mark Warner raise the sales tax to help pay, money, put in money for K through 12. We went into June. The world didn't come to an end, even though local governments predicted it would. So we will have it. We've never gone past July 1st, and June 30th. We're not going to get near that this time. The other thing is the Metro. That was my bill. Quite frankly, it was disgraceful that the Republicans in the House, and it's not a matter of being partisan, I'm just stating a fact, they all voted against that. It would have added, the tax that you hear about would have added $1 to a $100 hotel bill. And still, even with that, Arlington, Fairfax, Alexandria, Loudoun still have a cheaper tax on hotel rooms than Montgomery County, DC, or Prince George's County. Way cheaper. Or Virginia Beach. And this was absurd. And the grantor's tax would have added on a real estate sale of $500,000 would have added $250. And to put that in perspective, a sales tax on $500,000 is $30,000, and this was $250. It was a mere pittance. What it's done is it's taken $30 million that we were going to put back in NVTA for road construction, a lot of it in Hugo's district, that we now won't have and may have to go and drain the statewide money. Again, I've got a town hall meeting I've got to get to. Some of the other members here will get a little deeper into the weeds, but that's basically, they were two of the biggest issues that we had to deal with, and we'll get the job done. But thank you all for the advocacy, and thank you for everything you do. Okay.